Hey, welcome back to another episode of Broker Talk. Here, let me just pull up this right here and we can get started. Uh, we Our guest today is a Massachusetts Realtor of the Year. Our subject is what makes a great agent. What skills do you need to possess? Lots of people think anyone can be an agent. I watch HGTV. The truth is, in many stated like broadcasts like this, in Massachusetts, you only need 40 hours of study. That's not a lot to be considered a professional and to have an agent. The barrier to entry in this business is lower than a president's rating right now. On the other hand, to be good in this business, you need to be proficient in the elementary skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. The perfect person to teach you about and hone these skills is my colleague and friend, the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, Realtor of the Year, Jim Major. Hey, Jim, we only have 30 minutes, so I don't want to go through all the roles in your leadership in the industry you've filled. But what are you doing right now this year?
Hey, Larry, it's good to be back on. So this year is pretty exciting for me. I'm involved at all three levels at the local, state, and national level. I'm in my second term as a Massachusetts Regional Vice President for MAR, and that keeps me involved with the board at the Greater Boston Board. I also have the privilege of serving as a director at the National Association of REALTORS. And one thing that's really special is this year, in the National Association of REALTORS Leadership Academy. This is a group of 20 that they choose every year to go through an advanced leadership course. It's not 101 at all. It's more like 501, and it has been an incredible journey this year. And we'll finish up this November.
501. Is that the one that has the porn numbers, or what is that thing?
I
No,
haven't seen that yet.
no. You know, leadership in real estate is really a two-pronged thing. It's people who are understanding and helping the industry, and the other leaders that people look at are the people who sell the most houses. Those are often two different kinds of people because one is kind of self-focused and the other, there's no value judgment in either of that. Every industry needs both. But to be good at either of them, you do need, I said it's elementary, reading, writing, and arithmetic. I had a conversation today with someone I was setting up a showing with, and it wasn't built yet. And you could tell from the picture, it was a depiction, you know. But it in the description, she talked about, please don't come to this property expecting this house to be built. And I thought, that's hilarious. So I did the showing time. She called me up and she said, I just want to make sure that you know there's no house. And I said, I do know how to read. You know, and she said, you'd be amazed at how many angry calls I get. Where's the house?
Well, that's it. I mean, she had to call and tell you that just because so many people actually don't read and the instructions, and it does get a little frustrating when you're having to answer questions where the information is evident.
Right, and that's particularly in how you show the house. I mean, you could use showing time. You could say call list agent, call office. You can dictate anything, but you should follow what the other agent suggests. So that's part. There's a whole bunch of ways about reading. Reading the contract, reading the offer, making sure the numbers are correct, everything lines up, making sure the times line up. You know, these are the simple aspects that so often just get wrong.
You're right.
So you don't need. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
So you don't need to be a brilliant person. You need the basic elementary school of skill of reading. Read the stuff.
Absolutely, and and it goes back to I had a question last week. Somebody asked me, when if somebody that's just getting into the business, what advice would you give them right away? And there are so many things that you could tell somebody, so many things that their broker should be telling them, things that they should have probably should have learned in real estate school. But my answer to that, if you're going to be a realtor member, it's two things I would want you to read. One is the Code of Ethics, the
Right.
NAR Code of Ethics,
Right.
and read it word for word,
Right.
article by article, standard of practice by standard of
Right.
practice. You'd be amazed how many people have never read that.
Right.
Um, and when you come across something you don't understand, ask your broker or reach
Right.
out so that you can understand it and you can become more professional, and you're not stepping in it as often.
Right.
And the other one and that same line would be the Pathways Professionalism,
That's
which
an
kind of
NAR program, isn't it?
that is an NAR document. It's about a one pager, and it talks about how we should respect property,
Hmm.
people, and our peers.
I love the line, under all is the earth. The begin
Under all
the
is the land, in the
under
preamble
all
of the
the
Code of Ethics.
preamble.
Yes.
That is fantastic writing. It really places our industry, the individual who work this industry, um, we're connected to that earth, and on that earth we build buildings and businesses. And as real estate agents, we're responsible for the highest and best use of that land and that property. And that's kind of that's a responsibility. It's not about how many calls can I make, how many letters can I send out, how many doors can I knock on. It's how good am I at understanding what's going on in my community in the terms of real estate. For instance, how about prices? Let's talk about prices for a moment. Prices change every single week in every area because a different house came on the market. You know, if an expensive home comes on the market and it's a block from you, you can be 600 and that can be 2 million. That one sells. All of a sudden, Zillow says your value is much higher. And that's just an algorithm. If you don't understand that because you haven't really looked at it or paid attention to it, you're never going to know. Um,
Well, I mean, market value is something that constantly changes, and that's one of the discussions that you have with your buyers and your sellers when you're talking about value, because they'll key in on that assessed value.
right.
And we've been in an increasing market over the past decade, and the buyers are going, "Hey, it's only assessed for 400,000, but they want six. What's up with that?" It's because that's a static value. And again, these are some of the things that we should be
Yeah.
educating our clients about.
Well, assessed value, by the way, you know all of this because you teach it. Assessed value is related to price in a percentage, because the assessed value is what the town needs to operate the town. And they don't, whether you think it or not, the town doesn't want to overtax you because they want you to continue to pay taxes, and they want to be good with their money, and each town is different. But the assessed value is related to the town. The value that a buyer puts on is a whole different thing. So it could be 20, it could be 23%, it could be 2%, but it's a percentage. And if you want to know, if you're an agent and you want to know, is this a fair price? Go back and look what was sold and what was that assessed value. Look at 20 properties that are just like yours and see what that relation, that'll give you an average, and then you can say, oh, I get it. This is going to be the range.
And we've had a real challenge, especially working as buyers agents over the past couple of years, trying to counsel our clients as far as what the value of the property is, what is the price that is going to win this deal,
Yeah.
especially when you're seeing properties sell for 100,000 or more over the asking price. How can you peg that number? You just can't. You have to use your experience, and what's happening in that marketplace. Maybe look at some of the other aggregators out there like the RPRs or Zillow that give you very wide ranges of what's happening in a market. But yeah, that has been a challenge.
Yeah. And yet, the 100,000 over asking, those days I think are gone, don't you? You
I
know?
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are, and home
I haven't
inspections have
seen,
come back.
yeah, I haven't seen anything like that in a while. I have seen the Johnny come lately sellers going on and putting a higher price on because they're bludgeoning an agent who isn't strong enough to say, wait a minute, that was last week. This week, we have to go on at this price and get those people in. We can't expect that they're going to come in 100,000 over what you think your value is. You can't do that.
Right. Right.
Uh,
And I mean, and I'm starting to see those price adjustments. I saw one in my marketplace that it's come down $125,000 from its original asking price, and it's not $1 million property. Yeah, it was. I think they priced it at like 6.25 or something like that to
yeah,
start off with, and
yeah.
now it's back to where it needs, where it should have been.
I really do believe in Massachusetts, with only 40 hours of study to get your license, doesn't really make you knowledgeable in this. Experience helps, and having people around you helps. In fact, that's probably the most important. Have good friends. Have people that are willing to share good information. My idea early on, and it's borne out, is join your trade association, do something, meet other people who are smarter than you, more experienced than you. And
And outside your company,
yeah,
your company and your culture, that's great. You've chosen them for a reason. They're showing you how to list and sell. But I wished I had got involved with the trade associations earlier on, and then I
yeah,
did. I waited a decade before I put my toe in that water,
yeah,
and I've grown tremendously since that.
yeah,
The circles of people that I've met, and the influence that well, what they've done to bring me up, to challenge me.
right.
It's just been incredible. The opportunity's been fantastic.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And every agency and franchise and even the small boutiques, they tell you they'll train you. But in our real world, when you need training is at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night when that offer has to get over there and you have a question. You know, who can you talk to?
Yep,
Where can you look that up? And you really need to have relationships so you can actually call somebody.
that's
Um,
right.
uh, so there are franchises and organizations that have, like the Butterball Hotline, somebody you can call, but we're not cooking a turkey here. So I think communication, I mean, reading and writing is the ability to communicate. I think communication is absolutely essential to answer your phone. Pick up your phone. Answer your phone. Get back to people on time. You're in a business. If you don't, what are you doing? Um,
It's funny. You just rattled off a couple of lines from that NAR's Pathways Professionalism. Answer your phone. Call people back. Communicate promptly and professionally and whatnot. Um, I remember early on in the business when expireds were a thing. You, one of the things that you would, as a common theme, expireds would say that what they didn't like about their last relationship was lack of communication, and it just blows my mind that these people seemed like they were being ignored by their agent because they had their head in the sand because the property wasn't selling.
right,
It,
right.
so yeah, right. Communication is such a key element of our business.
So those are the simple ones. Answer your phone, get back to people are two. But here's another one, and you see that. So people will put a house on the market, and they'll say no showings until such and such a time or a date. And you have clients ready to go. They're sitting right there. And this person says no, nobody in until that date. And I suggested to an agent that perhaps, is there a reason? I went through my questions first. Is there a reason? Is the house ready? Oh, we're ready. Are there children in the house or animals that it's hard to make a time? No, that's not the case. It was just an arbitrary decision. And I said, I just need to ask you a question. Do you think that your seller wants fewer people to see your property than more people? It's, she said, you're arrogant. I said, I'm really not, or maybe I am. But here's an opportunity to get more people.
it became increasingly frustrating as you saw that more and more, or showings only during an open
Yeah.
house period, because they
Yeah.
wanted to jam all the buyers in there at the same time to create that shark fest, if you will. But yeah, I think in the end you're doing a seller a disservice, because you're going to have many eyeballs that aren't going to be able to see the property,
Ah,
just because just because of the constraints on the timing.
right. So in any event, I wasn't able to show the property. We had a specific time we could do it. My investor went and bought something else. 3 days later, that agent sent me a text and said, well, we didn't close. The offer didn't get accepted. You ready? And I said, sorry, Charlie. Her name wasn't Charlie. Um, but it's, you miss opportunities. Again, it was simple. Be polite, understand. And maybe you can't. Maybe there is a reason you can't show the property. I mentioned several: children, old person, animals. They're moving. It's not staged yet. There's a bunch of good reasons. Be
Absolutely.
honest, you know, and
100%.
and be straightforward about it. Lack of information is another one. Not knowing what's going on in the market where you're helping to either buy or sell. Now, there's been a lot more buyers than there has sellers recently. That's why inventory is so low. So
Sure.
everybody's had a bunch more buyers. Um, so if you have more buyers, you're probably going into communities that, when you get a lead, you're probably going into communities that aren't necessarily your regular one. Doesn't mean you can't sell, or you can't understand the market, but you have to do the work to understand the market. And that's a simple thing to do through the MLS, through various portals, through the town's Facebook page. Find out what people are talking about. Uh, that's a really simple thing. Um,
Well, I mean, you make a really good point, because in this market where we have this unquenched buyer demand, you find yourself going further afield than your normal marketplace that you're used to. And in Massachusetts, as we're close to Boston, for instance, pretty much every property's on sewer. But as you're coming out more into the burbs, you're running into septic. And
yeah.
if you don't know the first thing about septic systems or Title V or anything like that, you're really doing your client a disservice if you can't point them in the right direction or educate them properly.
Or know that it can be anywhere from a simple pump it out and get your Title V to, I'm sorry, it's no longer in compliance. You got to pull that thing up and replace it.
And that's not cheap, my friend. My neighbor
50,
just replaced theirs for 40 grand.
yeah, I was going to say between 50 and 60.
Can
It,
be.
it can be. It depends on whether it's a 3, 4, 5 bedroom septic, you know?
And that's money that's buried in the ground that you don't get the flash out of it like you do a new kitchen or bath.
Shitty money.
That's good.
Jeez. God. Flush it away. It's like going to Vegas. um, but anyway, I'm not in Vegas. I tell people that, we've had conferences in Vegas and people, oh, let's go out and gamble on it. I say, I'm self employed. Every day's a gamble for me.
Yeah, it's true.
But
We
I'm just being a wise guy. Um, but information is so critical to how we communicate, and we talk about um, agents coming from all different fields. I came out of marketing and writing. Um, what's your background before real estate? You must have a degree in something, and
Yeah, sure. Believe it or not, I have two degrees. One in the culinary arts,
yeah.
and the other in management. And I went to school because I love to cook, and so I went for a culinary degree, and then got into food service management for about a dozen years before I left that industry. But
But
tons of transferable skills, though.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Food cooking is a system. You have a recipe and you create it, but then because it's you, you can change it, you can alter it, make it more you or better. That's an absolute perfect metaphor. What makes a good agent? You know, constantly learning, constantly experimenting. And the management part, boy, the person you have to manage is yourself. And again, being self-employed, the only thing I know is my boss is a jerk. Uh,
Well, I mean, also, I mean, you're working with the public, and
yeah,
you're selling a product.
yeah.
And there's salesmanship there. There's, again, working with the public, and having those kind of interpersonal skills that come in handy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We pretty much everybody has a backstory, except for those few that are legacies, if you will.
Well, I forget. He's been a guest on here. Steve. He's the Somerville guy, very active. Bremer. Steve Bremer.
Steve Bremis.
Steve
Stephen
Bremis.
Bremis.
Steve
Yeah,
Bremis.
good guy. Good guy.
He's a good guy, but he inherited his father's agency.
Yep.
They started in the 1950s, and there are lots of people that come up out of that. But so they know they know the ups and downs of it clearly. We're trying to get people to see the ups and ups of it. To wake up and know what you're doing, and so we can move on from you got to communicate, you got to read, write, and know some math. Don't get your math wrong. That's really a bad thing for your client. Um, but so many people get into this business because they think they control their own schedule. Have you been able to control your schedule?
Um, sure. No, not really. I mean, you can to some extent. I mean, you don't have to answer your phone after 9 o'clock. You don't have to answer that text, or you can pick a day of the week where you're off. I haven't found much success with that, but it's the type of thing where you're in this business. It's going to be part of your life, and part of your stitching. So it's always kind of got to be a bit forefront. I mean,
But
unless you've got an extensive team behind you,
right.
that can pick up your slack. But if you're a solo
Yeah.
practitioner, it's going to be part of every day.
Yeah. Or an automated system that answers questions for you. How annoying is that? But um, well, it's true. But here's the thing about people will work with you not because you're at any of the top to the bottom agencies. They're going to work with you because they like you, they trust you, they believe you, and that's why there can be so many different agents, because there's so many different people. And so you need to be trustworthy, and that means understand what you're doing. And here's the thing about people who like and trust you: they'll understand if you tell them, I'm going to a wedding this weekend and I can't help you. Would you like someone else to show you? They don't mind that at all. They don't feel like, hey, get me in this house. And I say, I'd be happy to, but I'm at a wedding. Let me arrange something. And you're still servicing them and all that. And then of course you share, if they close on that house, even if they don't close on that house, you pay your friends some money, because this is part of your business. Um, I tell my clients all the time, in the evening, I'm an early riser. No, uh, this is no honor to be an early riser. It's just the way I am. So I wake up. So I don't stay up late, and I've got to shut off the business mind for a couple of hours before. I do have a life, and that's what we were talking about. What is your life? And all my clients know that I won't pick up then, but you might get a text back at 5 in the morning. So, just an answer to whatever you said. Or you might get a call at 8 o'clock in the morning. Whatever you told me to do, I can do then. You're probably not going to ask me to do it earlier than I'm awake. Um,
Well, it is important to have those expectations set up right at the get-go when you're doing your initial consultation with your buyer or your seller client. Let them know how you communicate, when you will be available, when you won't be. And it's so important to have that right up front, rather than having to figure out as you go along.
right. Well, here's something I have done. I don't know where along the way I learned it, saw it, something like that. Is you are what do we call that? Presumptive close, or when you're telling somebody something before they've actually done it, like you're at a presentation, you say, so imagine if we're sitting at the closing table. What have I done for you? Kind of thing. It's
Okay.
it's a little bit manipulative, but it gives them a chance to think about it. But in the communications thing, when I say at the opening, as I say, I answer my phone. And if I can't pick it up when you call me, I'm going to call you back that day. And if you haven't gotten a call from me in 24 hours, call my wife. I'm dead. And it's a funny kind of one of those lines, but it's true, because you want to be you want to give them every expectation of how you're going to communicate with them.
And it's a horrible feeling when you can't answer that phone, and then it just nags on you until you can talk to that person that's
Yeah.
reached out to you, that's trusting you or whatnot, looking for your opinion, advice, or whatever.
Yeah.
You just want to get that off your plate and move on to the next.
People appreciate it. The UPS guy must be here.
Oh, you hear my my dog? Yeah, he barks at anything that walks by the house. So
Oh, anyway, I just think that being good at what we do seems simple. It's elementary skills, but it's daily practice. You and I laughed earlier today when we were talking about that old agent that says to you something goes wrong. There's something that you have to talk about, and that person, and it could be anything. Could be anything, a title issue, an inspection issue, a financing issue. What about that washer dryer? It can be anything. And they'll say, in all my years of business, I've never had this experience. And to me, I'm thinking, in all my years of business, I've never not had a new experience in a day, because we're dealing with people, you know?
I we all run across that. And I think my favorite line when I hear that is, well, you can't say that anymore because here it is.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
But it usually comes from a position of weakness when they have to
Yeah,
throw that out at you.
yeah, yeah. And when they get angry at you because you're asking a simple question, there are things you can't ask, but there are a lot of things you can ask, and they can be, do you have any offers yet? That's not a hard question to answer, and you're not
Right.
being disloyal. In fact, if you already have offers, that may motivate that person a little bit more.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, we got to get moving. Um, but that's the other thing. Okay, so we're in a multiple offer world right now. People are getting, back in that time when it was 100,000 over, you were getting 20, 30, 50 offers. And people were doing crazy stuff. Hasn't been my experience the last month and a half. You're getting 2, 5 offers. You're still getting 20, 30 people in, but you're not getting the same offers. And the offers aren't really outrageously overpriced. They're kind of right in, back what we used to call a normal market,
Right.
a regular market.
Still very much a seller's market. The
Very
buyer's
much.
demand is still very much there, but again, it's
Right.
not as much as it was, since the rise of the interest rates a couple of months ago. I think that's really knocked out a lot of buyer demand on the lower end, unfortunately.
Right.
So we're not seeing those 20 offers. We might see 3.
Yeah,
But
that's
and
exactly.
again, you need to counsel your seller clients and your buyer clients exactly what's happening in the market today, not what happened in February, but what's
Right.
happening today, so that they won't be surprised when after 2.5 weeks you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I think we need to look at our pricing strategy again, and this is why. It doesn't come as a surprise.
Yeah. Average days on market are 20. If we're 20 and we don't have 3 offers, we got to do something. Something's up, and it's marketing is part of it. It's price is part of it. There's a couple of factors in there.
Yep.
It's exposure. If you're keeping it only open at open houses, and you're not letting that person that works 6 days a week and can't get there till 6 o'clock, if you're keeping that, you're stopping the opportunity for the sale. But we're just kind of coming up to the end. I want to get to the end of the multi offer thing.
Yeah.
If you're going into a house and you know, as an experienced person, you know there's going to be a bunch of offers, and you
Yeah.
ask the client, how are you going to deal with this? That's kind of a simple question, because they should know they're going to get multiple offers. And the agent can do a bunch of different things, and the client dictates some of those things. But are you going to go back and forth and back and forth? Here's a bid. Are you going to go highest and best? What are you going to do? Is this
So this is you as the buyer's agent talking to the seller's agent
at the listing
Yeah.
before the offer's in? Because you want to know. You want to
You want
know.
to know what the playing field is.
Right.
And,
Right.
also keeping in mind that can always change. And sometimes it does,
And
like no offers will be reviewed until Tuesday, and they accepted an offer on Sunday. It happens.
yeah,
And, there's nothing illegal about it, but,
no,
I hate being that listing agent that drew that line in the sand and then didn't honor
then
it because
lied.
their clients decided something different. Yeah. Well, you'll have aggressive buyers agents on the other side as well. This is our offer. It's good today until 5. We're going to be marching elsewhere. If it looks really good, sometimes it'll coerce the seller to accept it.
In a seller's market, that buyer doesn't have too many other places to go. But if you offer
Yeah.
somebody too much, that doesn't mean it's going to close. That means I have the best offer right now. You haven't vetted that offer out. You don't know
Right.
if it in fact is the best offer. But having that information going in, here's another great question. What besides price is the seller looking for?
100%.
You
If
know?
you want to know, what's their end game?
Yeah.
Are they moving? Are they having something built? Do they,
Yeah.
would they appreciate staying in the property for a little
Yeah.
while, or all
Yeah.
these types of things? You're absolutely right. These are questions that if you're a buyer's agent, you're not asking the agent in this type of environment, you're short selling your buyer client. You're
I'll,
just kind of shooting blanks at the wall.
right. I asked that of a listing agent with one of my buyers. First of all, she was thrilled that I asked, because she didn't know how she was going to deal with it. The family was moving because they had another baby. They had their first baby there, and they had another baby. It was time to get a bigger house, and they had to do that kind of quickly. They wanted to get it done, but they had a 6-year-old. And he had had every birthday at that house. And they wanted an opportunity to have a bouncy house and everything in the backyard. And when we made our offer, we offered to pay for that bouncy house and let them have the yard for the day. It won the deal. We weren't the biggest offer.
That is incredibly creative, and it really, yeah. Wow, excellent. I love
But
hearing that.
it's communication. I'm not the smartest guy. Some of that stuff, as you know, doesn't work. But if you don't ask, if you're not curious, you don't get the answer.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to line up dates and all that as
Yeah.
well. I mean, it's important to know
Yeah.
what's in the seller's mind, what they want,
Yeah.
so that you can give it to them or have
Yeah.
the opportunity to.
Yeah. My those buyers were getting married, and this is where they wanted to have their wedding in the backyard.
I
So
just sold a house like that up in Bradford. They're going to
yeah,
be getting married in their
yeah.
backyard. That makes you feel so good,
Oh, it does.
especially if you get an invite to the wedding.
Yeah, or stop by. Anyway, it's wonderful, those kind of things. That's because we're asking questions, because we're going a little bit further. Communication, read, write, do your arithmetic. That's how you get to be you, Realtor of the Year 2022.
Thank you, Larry.
And my
It's
friend.
quite an honor, and my good friend Larry.
Let's play us out here. Been great talking to you, Jim.
As always, thank you.
Tune in next week. We'll have another show. Nobody as good as Jim Major. But by the way, Jim works with Lamaki Realty, and you can reach him in there. You're in Waltham, the Waltham office? Woburn office. Excellent. Great to have you as part of our team here. Talk to you soon.
Stay well, my friend.
Recording stopped.